Hello, welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Fidelia Aguncha. The Nigerian military has recorded another major victory in the battle against insurgency as the Air Force has announced the airlifting of hostages, including aged women and children from a captured Boko Haram Camp Zero in Sambisa Forest. A statement from Air Force spokesperson Air Vice Marshal Olatokunbo Adesonya said the hostages were airlifted to an Air Force base in Maiduguri. At the base in Maiduguri, the force medical team, which was on standby, conducted preliminary medical checks on the rescued hostages and also provided them with medical treatment prior to the process of integration back to the larger society. The Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, has also directed that those with serious medical cases be immediately placed on admission to ensure they were adequately cared for. Senate President Bukola Saraki opened his defense in his second trial at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The Senate President, who is standing a fresh trial on a 3-count charge, called a former member of the Code of Conduct Bureau, Ademola Adebo, to testify on his behalf. Adebo was a member of the board of the CCB dissolved by the federal government in June 2017. Saraki is being retried at the CCT following his previous acquittal in June 2017. The earlier 18-count charges were also brought down to 3 by the Federal Court of Appeal, which overruled his acquittal. He has maintained his innocence and insists he is confident of another acquittal. President Muhammadu Buhari has withheld his assent to 3 bills passed by the National Assembly. His decision was disclosed in a letter read at the floor of both chambers of the legislature during plenary on Tuesday. The 3 bills rejected by the President are the Police Procurement Fund Establishment Bill 2017, Chartered Institute of Management of Nigeria Bill 2017, and the Nigerian Council for Social Works Establishment Bill 2017. He expressed reservation on the clarity of the content of all 3 bills. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Senate has again asked the President to step up efforts to protect the lives and properties of all Nigerians. They reached the resolution after debating on the motion of national security raised by Senator Shehu Sani. Sani had decried the persistent attacks by suspected herders, insisting that the issue had not been resolved. Shehu also claimed that the herdsmen attack have spread to almost half of all the Nigerian states. The Senate in the resolution condoled with all victims of the attacks and charged the security agencies to step up efforts. As the 2019 election draws nearer, President Muhammadu Buhari has set in motion efforts to reconcile key members of his party, the ruling All Progressives Congress. The president on Tuesday announced a chieftain of the party, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as the leader of the team to reconcile aggrieved members of the party. The step, it is believed, is meant to put the party in better stead ahead of the governorship elections holding in Ekiti and Osun states this year, as well as the 2019 general elections. Other key states which may be under focus are Kano, Oyo, Rivers, Kogi, Kaduna, Zamfara, and Osun State, among others. A human rights advocacy group, Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project (SERAP), has challenged the legality of the move by the police to arrest Kasim Afegbua, the spokesperson of ex-military head of state, General Ibrahim Babangida. Afegbua has pledged to turn himself in to authorities by Wednesday after he was declared wanted by the police force. He, however, insists he has done nothing wrong and vows to fight his ordeal in court. The arrest warrant relates to a statement which Babangida, a former head of state, used to complain about President Muhammadu Buhari's shortcomings and advise Nigerians on the path to the future. But in a statement on Tuesday by its Deputy Director, Timothy Adewale, SERAP faulted the police on the order for Afegbua's arrest. The body argued that there was nothing inciting in the statement issued by Afegbua, adding that anyone was free to comment on political issues. President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday visited Nasarawa State, where he inaugurated some projects, among which is the Muhammadu Buhari International Market. Another project inaugurated by the president is the Community Health Influencers, Promoters and Services Program. The CHIEFS program is one of the president's initiatives and a critical component of the primary healthcare revitalization program geared towards addressing challenges of human health resources in the rural areas. The president is expected to return to Abuja on Wednesday. Nigeria's Ministry of Health, Isaac Adewale, has been explaining the reason for the spread of Lassa fever in the country. So far, 31 people have been confirmed dead in the outbreak, which has spread to 15 states. In a chat with newsmen, Adewale blames poor hygiene and inadequate health facilities as the key cause for the spread of the disease.
Lassa fever used to occur only during dry season. Obviously, because there will be no food for the rats in the forest. They move closer to homes and they're looking for food. They contaminate our food. And when we improperly store food products, they will urinate and defecate on them. Last year, we had about 30 states affected. So far this year, we've recorded 15. The worst state affected this year is Ondo State, followed by Edo. But in terms of mortality, the worst hit is Ebonyi, where 7 of the cases were really linked to one single case of a botched or improperly done euphilectomy. And we suspected that that person was infected. And so the 7 health workers who attended to him during that surgery also got infected. Outbreak is universal. What has worsened outbreak is the ease of transportation and global warming. Many diseases have what we call incubation period. And if you are infected during the incubation period, if you have the infection and you travel around during incubation period, you can infect other people. Because incubation means you are carrying the disease, you can infect other people, but it doesn't show on you. And so, but what is happening, Nigeria is in the belt that we call Lassa fever belt. So typically, it is endemic and native to Nigeria. But we can win the war against Lassa fever by taking care of the environment. When we live in dirty environment, we're actually sending invitation cards or invitation to Lassa fever, malaria, and other environmentally related diseases. So we need to live clean. We need to store our food properly. We need to cook them properly. And then we need to have a high level of suspicion.
A federal high court in Abuja has adjourned the trial of a former publicity secretary of the opposition People's Democratic Party, Olisami Tutu, March 14. The judge, Justice Okon Abang, adjourned the trial after the defendant arrived in court on Monday on a stretcher. The former spokesman is standing trial on a 7-count charge bordering on criminal breach of trust, corruption and money laundering. He has pleaded not guilty to these charges.
I'm sure you recall on the last adjourned date there was a specific order that the matter must certainly go on today, in spite of the fact that we had forwarded a medical report as to his indisposition. And as far as we are concerned, an order of court must be obeyed. So what we did essentially was to compel an obedience of that order, and that entailed Mr. Metu, Chief Metu himself, insisting on his discharge. And when the hospital authorities refused, he had to enter into an undertaking that he was being discharged at his own peril. We did all that in order to convince his lordship that nobody was playing any pranks, that he was genuinely ill. And as you also recall, we had pleaded for release of his passport to enable him to undertake the surgery, the much required surgery. That problem is persistent, it hasn't gone away. And that is the reoccurrence that we are seeing now. Perhaps if he had gone on to have a surgery, that would have brought about a complete termination of the illness, but it is there. And our prayer is that come the next adjourned date, at least the doctors would have ascertained exactly what remedies can be applied. And then if it's fine, it will be all right. We made an offer to the EFCC today. We requested them to agree on a doctor of their choice, a consultant of their choice, to examine him and then write an independent report that we are willing to pay. And we did all that to convince them that the man is not feeling well. He should at least be alive to stand his trial. The state will gain nothing if he drops dead.
Corruption, nothing Actually, my business has been going down. I need your help.
Bawahala. I will show you the formula. I use some bad chemical which I mix, so produce the drugs which gives me up to 4 times profit. Imagine.
So you are one of the people that is killing millions and millions of Nigerians in this country. Balabi, was it not you last 2 months that was complaining about the fuel scarcity in this country, that the government is corrupt?
Have I killed anybody in your family?
You don't have to kill any of my family members directly. Every Nigerian you kill is my family. Selling of fake drugs, expired drugs, putting drugs in wrong packets, all that are acts of corruption. This is corruption, not in my country. CIA.
Me? Fake drug? Now corruption? Allah kia.
Corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
Glad to have you back. The Central Bank of Nigeria has injected another sum of $210 million into the interbank foreign exchange market. Figures obtained from the bank indicated that it offered $100 million to authorized dealers in the wholesale segment of the market, while the small and medium enterprises segment received the sum of $55 million. Customers requiring foreign exchange for invincibles such as tuition fee, medical payments, and basic travel allowance, among others, were also allocated the sum of $55 million. The intervention brings the total amount of CBN intervention in the market to $500 million in 1 week. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved 2 executive orders. The first order is to improve local content in public procurement with science, engineering, and technology component. In the proclamation, the president also directed ministries, departments, and agencies to engage indigenous professionals in the planning, design, and execution of national security projects, while the second order is the instrument of ratification of the bilateral air services agreement with 5 countries. The bilateral agreements are between the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the government of the People's Democratic Republic of Algeria, the Republic of Congo, the People's Republic of China, the State of Qatar, and the Republic of Singapore. Oil fell for a 3rd day on Tuesday as a rout in global equities triggered losses across bonds, cryptocurrencies, and commodities. Brent crude futures were down 35 cents at $67.27 a barrel, while U.S. crude eased by 25 cents to $63.90 a barrel. Oil has been cut between the opposing forces of a 1.8 million barrels per day cut in supply by the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and Russia, and a surge in U.S. crude output above 10 million barrels per day, its highest since the 1970s. There is also a seasonal downturn in demand as many refineries shut for maintenance at the end of the peak consumption winter season in the Northern Hemisphere. Government officials in DR Congo say 12 patients were stabbed in their beds at a hospital in Goma. The attack, which happened overnight on Sunday, occurred in 2 health centers in the Mbosho district and left 3 people seriously hurt. Government officials have warned the attackers might be Islamist rebels from neighboring Uganda. South Africa's annual State of the Nation address is set to be postponed to a later date as pressure grows on the country's embattled President Jacob Zuma to step aside. The announcement comes as pressure piles up on President Zuma to step down from office. The ruling ANC party has already called a meeting of its top body for Wednesday to discuss the management of the transition between the Zuma and Ramaphosa administrations. On Monday, senior politicians held an emergency meeting in Johannesburg to discuss Zuma's future. Super Eagles coach Gernot Rohr has hailed the performance of the home-based Eagles at the just concluded African Nations Championship. The Eagles went all the way to the final but were crushed 4-0 by the home nation in the deciding match. The poor performance has drawn criticism from Nigerians, but Rohr insists the team needs to be praised. The German says he is pleased with their level of performance and has commended the players for getting a silver medal. The Premier League said on Tuesday that it is open to introducing a mid-season break with British media reporting that it could be implemented before 2022 as part of the next TV rights deal. Talks have been ongoing between the Football Association FA and the English Football League EFL regarding the proposal as they explore the possibility of bringing the English fixture schedules in line with the top leagues in Germany, France, Italy and Spain. According to reports, the prospect of a European winter break is referenced in the tender documents that have been sent to potential broadcast partners. The next domestic TV rights deal will cover 2019 to 2022, the results of which are due to be announced next week. 3 Manchester United first-team players have participated in a new short film to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the Munich air disaster. Under Herrera, Marcus Rashford and Jesse Lingard linked up with the Manchester United Foundation for the project. The players were joined by young people to recite a poignant poem which was interspersed with emotive imagery of the Busby Babes and newspaper clippings from the tragic event. The message is that the Busby Babes United's brilliant side of the 1950s, of which 8 members were killed in the disaster, will never die in the hearts and minds of the club and fans. Well, that's it on News Now. Thanks for watching. I am Fidelia Aguncha.